Welcome to At the Ready Podcast, where we gear up men to navigate life's battles with purpose. Join us as we arm ourselves with wisdom, faith, and a community of men prepared to walk this life together. Now let's get ready. All right, welcome to At the Ready.
Hi.
At home edition.
At home?
Yeah.
It would have been awesome if we could do this at home.
We could have done it at home.
You didn't give me that option.
I'm pretty sure I asked you that exact thing. I said, do you want to do it at our house or do you want to do it in the studio?
I don't remember that.
That's what I get most of the time.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. So today on the podcast, I got the most beautiful woman in the world. My lovely wife.
Did you forget my name?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not everybody needs to know your name.
Okay.
You're my lovely... I call you honey and babe and those kind of things. So,
Gotcha.
I mean, if you want to let them know your name, you can.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So I always hate on podcasts whenever, I'm watching episodes and the host never says anything about himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like that guy. And I watched one for a long time. It was about prisons, and the host I didn't know anything. Like, I knew he was in prison and he interviewed people in prison. And I'd be like, well, I want to hear the host story. And it was like 20-something episodes before he did his story. And so I didn't want to be that way. I feel like now maybe with Lee's story, and I think I'm going to put this one on after Jake's. So now maybe I've got some people.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got them hooked.
I got them hooked
Now they have to listen about us? Okay.
And so now I'll be like, and here's this guy's story. It's terrible, but
Whatever.
you may want to know a little bit about me.
Yeah.
So I thought that's what we're going to do on this episode.
Okay.
We'll tell our story. Some people think our story is really cool. I mean, I think it's pretty cool.
It is.
We'll start with, by the way, you're the reason that I'm super self-conscious about when I go.
Listen, I just do these things out of love so that you know.
Yeah. Well, there's only like a couple of people that gave me constructive criticism on the podcast. Like I had a group of people, a small group that I like tested it on before I released it. And I'd be like, hey, give me constructive criticism. And you and my friend Brian, we can always count on Brian to be honest. But you and my friend Brian were the only ones that actually gave criticism. Everybody else is just like, man, that's great. Yeah. I'm like, no, I really want you to tell me what am I doing wrong or what am I doing right? What could I do better? And then yours was, sometimes when you go to talk, you go,
It's not really sometimes.
Not every time
No,
do I
not
do
every
it.
time.
And now I'm self-conscious of it, but I don't realize I do it until after. And I'm like, well, I'm not editing this stuff out.
Well, I'm not going to name any names, but you're not the only one I have done that to.
Oh.
Pointed something out that I thought they would want to know, and now they're self-conscious about it. So.
Way to go. Way
I
to
know,
make
right?
people self-conscious. All right, so let's tell our story. We'll start with a little bit of our past.
Hey, you first.
I got to go first?
Yeah, you got to go first. You're younger than me.
That's not fair. You're supposed to let the ladies go first.
Beauty. You're beautiful. You go first.
Beauty?
Yeah.
I thought it was age before beauty.
Not today.
Not today?
No.
Okay, opposite. So, a little bit about my backstory. It seems funny, though. I almost feel like I should look at the camera because you know all this stuff. But I'm not going
I'm trying really hard not to look at the camera.
Yeah. A little bit about my backstory. So, my mother had me extremely young, 16. She was 16 years old. But, and my dad was 19. And they got married because that's what you do in Western Kentucky when you get pregnant. And so, but it didn't last long. See, I just did it again. It didn't last long. Are you going to notice every time I do it? Okay.
Not unless you point them out every time.
I won't point them out every time.
Okay.
So they get married because my mom's pregnant with me. And it only lasts like 9 months. I think they were married. And then they get divorced. And my mom being extremely young, and my dad being an adult, he ended up getting custody of me. So I lived with my dad all the way up until I was 17 years old. And it was a good relationship. I had a good upbringing. A little bit difficult upbringing because my dad had a strong work ethic, and so I had to work. When some of my other friends were playing sports, I was working. Now, that's not to say they didn't let me try sports. I did play baseball 1 year, and I just wasn't great at it. I didn't blossom into this specimen of a man that I am now until.
I know, I've seen the pictures. Had we met then, I don't know that we'd be married now. Really? I've told you this before.
I know, but I feel like I could have charmed you with my personality.
Maybe.
Anyway, so my dad was never the type to shy away from work, and he was a truck driver by trade and made okay money, but he always had side businesses. We mowed yards from when I was probably 8 until I was 12-ish. So every day he'd get home from work, I'd be done with homework, and we'd go mow yards until dark. And I, did the crappy jobs, the weed eating, the push mowing, and all that. But it was good. And then after that, he started a pallet recycling business. I did that all the way up until I moved out. We kind of came to blows, me and my dad, when I was 17. And because I had another option, at this point, my dad had remarried. My dad remarried my stepmother, who he's married to now, and they've been married for, they're probably going on 30-something years, because I was young whenever she came into the picture.
And she was like probably over.
Yeah. Well, I'm 38.
Yeah.
So, yeah, probably over 32, 33 years.
Mm-hmm.
I just barely remember life without her, So, and when I got to be, and I got a little brother, so I have no siblings.
No full siblings.
Full siblings, right. I have a little brother who is my dad and stepmother's son, and we're 7 years apart. And then I've got a sister with my mother and my stepdad. We're 12 years apart. So, but whenever I became a teenager, I thought I knew everything. And
so that hasn't changed?
No.
Okay.
I've always been that way. But one day, me and my dad came to blows, an argument, and I thought I was, going to be a man. And we got in a little bit of a scuffle, and I said, I'm going to go live with my mom. And he said, fine, pack your stuff and get out. And so I did. And that was good and bad. I don't know where I would be if I hadn't. I think my life would have been completely different if I hadn't moved out, because after high school, I signed up to go to the military because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, much like most people, young men who are in high school. So I thought, I didn't have no money. I mean, we're middle class, I would say I'm better off now as an adult than my parents were when I was that age. I'm upper middle class. They were probably like middle class. But there was no money for college to speak of. So, but because I moved in with my mom, my stepdad was a police officer. And seemed kind of weird, but he was young. So my mom had me extremely young. And then my stepdad was younger than my mom by about the same age gap we are, 2 or 3 years apart. And when I decided I was going to join the military, he said he was going to join too. And I know that seems kind of weird, but I'm 18 and he's probably 14 or 15 years older than me. So he's close to the limit. He's over 30, but he's under the limit. And so we go to basic training together. The local newspaper did a ad on us and everything. It was kind of a big deal. And I thought it was going to be really neat, have somebody go with basic training that I know until the drill sergeants found out that. So I remember that day because we signed up together. We're the same. We shipped out on the same day. We're both Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. We're same company, same platoon, everything. And we're the first day you get to basic training, it's like a day and a half to 3 days worth of just paperwork, death by PowerPoint and paperwork. So we're sitting on the front row of these desks, and this drill sergeant's walking down through there, and we have our driver's license out on the table. And he goes by and he picks up Kelly's and he looks at it, and he's just like, looks at it for a minute, and he puts it down. And then I'm sitting like 5 or 6 people down from Kelly. We're not right next to each other. But he picks up like one in between mine and Kelly's, and then he picks up mine and he looks at it. And he gives this like, and then he keeps mine and goes back down and picks up Kelly's, and he looks at both of them, and then he just walks off, and you see him gathering up a couple of drill sergeants, and so then we get pulled out into the hall, and they're like, drill sergeants are kind of brash, so they're like, "What are you two, boyfriends or something?" And Kelly's like, "Oh, that's my stepson," And they're like, "Oh, he probably didn't get as much crap as I did, but I got the whole, oh, you had to bring your daddy with you when you go to boot camp. You couldn't even go by yourself." So anyway, long story short, they ended up splitting us up, and we stayed in the same company but different platoons. But he didn't make it because he had torn his Achilles tendon like several years before, and he just couldn't handle the everyday rucking, running, and he ended up having to get out got medical. What do they call it? When you get, it's not ETS, but
I don't know.
I don't remember. It's been too long since we've been
I don't know why you do this to me.
So anyway, joined the Guard, stayed around home. I went to Hurricane Katrina. I went down there, worked for a little while. Military police was my MOS. And after being in for about a year and a half or so, I got orders to deploy to Afghanistan. And then while I was there, I saw the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. That's where we met, Afghanistan.
Yes. Well, a sand volleyball court in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm. Well, we saw each other sooner than that. I saw you. Let me put it that way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, we'll pause right there.
Oh. Okay.
Now you got to tell your side, and you got to catch up.
My side won't take as long. My memory's not like yours, so. I was born into a family. I was the youngest of 3 girls. Mom and dad still married. Raised in church in a God-fearing home. Fairly strict. My sisters would say that I had the easy end because they'd already been through everything. All the punishments were doled out on them. So now they say I was spoiled, but I don't think I was. I was hell on wheels for my mom. I do know that. Many emergency situations with me. Was bit by a dog. Knocked myself out on the 10-foot monkey bars. Hit by a car. But my family I love my family. I'm glad I grew up in a small town. You call Mayfield small. My town was 2,000 people, a mile square with 1 4-way stop sign. So if I was out, it didn't matter where I was, I would be able to hear my mom whistle for me, and I better be home within 10 minutes. And that was pushing it.
Yeah, you live in a very small town.
Yeah. But very loving family. You couldn't leave the house without saying, "I love you," hugs, whatever. And even if you forgot something, you came back in. If you tried to leave without, you better say I love you again. That was something that both my mom and dad, my dad more so, I was very much a daddy's girl. I tell him all the time I was the closest thing he got to a boy. So played sports all through school. Basketball was my favorite. And then did get into drugs in high school. So not drugs, just one drug, marijuana. But I don't think I would be here without the service. So at 17, I wanted to join the Marines, and my dad told me no, and I couldn't do anything because I was only 17, and I was dead set on signing like then. So I tried to bargain with him. Not the Marines. How about the Army? He's like, nope. I was like, all right, Army Reserves? And he's like, all right, I'll sign for that. So I joined when I was 17. I went to basic OSUT training, so one station, straight out of high school. I graduated 2001, June of 2001. And when was 9/11?
September.
Yeah. So graduated. I didn't have to go to basic until February. So that summer, I didn't have anything to do. So I just stayed at home. I slept in. I woke up, watched cartoons, eat Cheerios, whatever, And September 11th happened. That's exactly what I did that morning. I was sitting in my dad's recliner because he was at work. My mom was at work. Everybody was gone. And I was curled up on his recliner watching cartoons, eating Cheerios. And my mom called the house phone. Pretty sure that's what she did. And it's like, are you watching TV? I was like, yeah, cartoons. She's like, turn on the news. So I turned on the news, and I was like, oh. She's like, what does this mean? I was like, I don't know. So that's September 11th. We have orders. No, I go to basic in February, get done in June, and I have orders to go to Iraq by end of August, beginning of September. And, of course, that's stressful on my mom. But it's what I wanted to do. I can remember growing up, my dad saying that he wished he had done what my grandfather did. My grandfather was in the service. He was in the Army. And I think that kind of stuck with me. But I just always had this, once I realized it was an option for me, that's what I wanted to do. And I don't know if that's part of that alpha female thing you talk about all the time, but whatever. So we went to Iraq. Fort Dix, New Jersey in December. We were in Kuwait end of February, beginning of March, and went in to Iraq D-Day -1. It was a long, I don't even know, it was 13, 16 months, something like that. I don't really remember much of it. I do know leaving, I was asked to drive a truck with all the leftover ammunition on it, and it was uncovered truck. And I do clearly remember laying on the hood of that truck and praying for the first time in a while. And I don't even remember it. I don't even remember drifting or falling away. But I remember that. Made it home safe, obviously. Stayed in, did a few random things, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And then I had the opportunity to volunteer. We have to talk about why I volunteered to go to Afghanistan.
If you want to, you don't have to.
So I started a relationship with someone in Iraq in my unit.
Yeah, you don't have to get super detailed.
We were together from 2003 until 2006. When he volunteered to go to Afghanistan without talking to me about it. So, me being me, I was pissed off. So, after he left, I signed up for the same detachment. Ended up following behind him by because he was leaving.
Yeah, you were his replacement.
Yeah. And he ended up giving me a tour of the base the first day I got there, and the last place we stopped was the sand volleyball courts. I think I've caught us up to where we are now.
Yeah, you got even a little more detail than me. I kind of skipped all my high school stuff, but mine was pretty typical kid.
Mm-hmm.
Other than I fit in with about every crowd. I didn't really have a people.
I didn't want to.
Mm. Well, you were kind of funny because you were a good athlete, very good athlete, and so but you didn't hang around with the athlete types.
I tried, but it was high school. Like those girls now, if I was back home, we would hang out all the time.
Yeah,
but it was high school, and I didn't like drama. I didn't like gossip. I didn't like cattiness. I didn't like bullies mainly.
That's where Evan gets it.
Yeah. So, sorry.
Yeah, turn it up a little bit.
Turn it this way?
Yep.
Okay.
I
had two best friends. One went to my school. And the other one I've been best friends with since I was in diapers. She lived in the town over, and we did a lot of shenanigans together.
Yeah. Did you get in any trouble?
Yes.
I mean, I know that you did, but
yeah.
For the audience, did you get in any trouble?
I got in a lot of trouble. I was very defiant. Once I got it started before I got my driver's license, but it ramped up, I'm sure. My mom would say after I got my driver's license, because not only did I have my license, my family, you paid for your own stuff. If you wanted it and it wasn't a need, you better pay for it.
Right.
So the restaurant, everybody started working at the restaurant between 12 and 14. Our family owns a restaurant. And that's how you made your money. And
thanks. Trying to show a little belly.
Get me excited. So we all three, me and my sisters, we all bought our own vehicles, that kind of stuff. So it was my car, so I do what I want.
Right.
And now my closest sister is 4 years older than me. So by the time I got to high school, she was out of the house. My oldest sister is 6 years old.
You have to speak up.
6 years older than me. And let's see. Yeah, Sam was born.
I was going to say, what?
Yeah.
How old were you when Sam was born?
Sam was born when I was in high school.
Yeah.
On her 20th birthday, so 97.
That's your oldest nephew.
Yes, that's my boy.
Mm-hmm.
My boy, Blue. Sambo. And he's a big part of my high school time because Kendra lived with us for a bit with Sam. And I kind of feel like I know I'm his aunt, but at the time it felt more, I mean, you know how I was with him when we got back from Afghanistan.
I do. All right, so let's talk about Afghanistan. This is where our love story begins.
New and improved.
Yeah. So the first time I saw you in Afghanistan, I got in country about 6 months before you. When did you get there? You remember? What month?
June.
Okay, so we got there January of 2006. We started mobbing in like December of 2005. And then January 2006, we get in country. We took over for the 3rd ID, and we were tasked under the 10th Mountain Division. But we took over for the 3rd ID, and so we were there. We were doing detainee operations, and we were there about 6 months before you got there. So I remember the first time I saw you, the guys you were relieving, they had been telling us, "Hey, we're getting ready to go," and so your detachment that you were part of, y'all were like the subject matter experts, and y'all deployed in very small, like a squad size. There's probably, 10 or 12 of you? 12 of you?
Highest ranking was an E7.
Yeah.
Lowest ranking was E5.
Yeah. So y'all were like the subject matter experts. Y'all came in, kind of ran things. Y'all were like the supervisors there. But I was just a little peon, a little specialist is all I was. And that's all anyway, that's another part of the story. So I remember the first time I saw you, I had worked the night shift, and I had ate breakfast and was getting off, And so our chow hall, the way it was kind of set up is like we lived in what was called bee huts. And it's just
Plywood.
what we would call a shed
Mhm.
now with doors on each end.
Mhm.
They were probably about 20-something feet long, 12 or so feet wide. And it was a hallway down the middle with 4 rooms on each side. Why are you grinning?
We went to the bathroom before we started, but I got.
Oh, you got to go again? We'll take a break in a second.
Okay.
So, we lived in bee huts,
Mhm.
and then you walked the base. We were in Bagram, and the base was sectioned off into camps, right? And each camp had a chow hall, and so it was our huts, the chow hall, and then the detainee facility. And I had gotten off work, stopped and ate chow, which for me was breakfast. It was breakfast time, but for me it was supper. And then I'm walking back to my bee hut, and me and you passed each other.
Mm.
And you didn't even know that I was alive. One, because you're brand new in country. I'm sure you were
Mhm.
trying to still figure stuff out. But I'll admit, as we passed one another, I think I may have said, "Good morning, Sergeant." I can't remember. But I'll admit I was a sinner. I took a second, maybe third glance as you went by, right? And then so I went back and went to sleep. And then I didn't know who you were. I just saw a good looking sergeant, And so then a couple of days later is when I found out that you were working at the facility with us.
Gotcha.
You want to tell your first seeing of me. And then
I'm pretty sure the
take a break.
first day I was there. So you must have slept and then got up and gone to play volleyball.
Oh, maybe, probably. So I was in a league,
Okay.
and we played, and
Yeah.
or I may have changed. It all runs together, so it's
Yeah.
hard to. I may have, because there's several times that when we get off at nights, we'd play a real early morning game. But I may have just went home and changed, and then went straight to the court.
Because we got there and he gave me a tour around the whole place. We went through the facility, all the areas. He showed me the Air Force area, all that stuff. They get such nice stuff, whatever. But last stop was the sand volleyball court, and there was a group playing, and I noticed you right away. You were very cocky. Very cocky.
What?
Very cocky.
No.
And he asked if I wanted to play a game, and I don't remember if I played or if he just played, but I clearly remember he thought he was very good at volleyball. And he was good.
He was
not
pretty
gonna say
good.
he wasn't.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
But somebody blocked his spike, and coming down from the block, I'm sure he did a low flex and maybe said, "New and improved, baby," while looking me dead in the eyes.
Who would do something like that? I just want to point out, I blocked him multiple times that game.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that was the first or like the third time, but
Gotcha.
yeah, it doesn't look like it now, but back then I was a lot thinner and I could jump pretty high.
You still can jump very high.
Yeah, sometimes.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a little break and then we'll finish our story. This episode will be probably several breaks because you have the bladder of like the size of a pea.
Whatever.
All right. We'll take a break.
Okay, bye.
And we're live again. So our bathroom in our church, or where the studio is downstairs. So it sounds like we're out of breath because we had to walk upstairs.
87.
There's not 87.
That's close.
We don't do cardio. Pull your mic in. Nobody can hear you.
Okay, let me get comfy. I need a pillow up here for the feet.
I don't have no pillows.
Is that good?
I think so. Maybe pull
Check.
it a little closer.
Check.
Good.
Okay.
All right, so we're in Afghanistan. I have stuffed the boyfriend. Made my claim. Huh?
While still having.
Yeah. So we didn't get to that point.
No.
I had a girlfriend when I went to Afghanistan. Pretty serious relationship. We'd been dating a couple years. But by this point we were probably on the verge of splitting up because she had expressed interest in not wanting to wait around for me. So
it's hard.
Or we just had. It's just hard.
Yeah.
Doing that kind of thing for a year. I mean, you get 2 weeks of leave, and I can't remember if I'd already went on leave by the time you got there. I feel like I had. But, come to find out later, she'd been seeing other guys and hanging out. And
it is what it is.
It is what it is. I ain't losing no sleep over it. But, so, how would you say our relationship went while we were overseas? So we both had significant others.
I think it gave us a chance to become friends. In the process of falling for each other.
Yeah.
Because there were limitations on when we could see each other and what we could do, what we could talk about, and all that stuff. I think you proved your loyalness to me, and not in any kind of romantic way. It was in our facility, when I needed you, you were always ready and willing. And that meant a lot.
That was hard, too, being in the Specialist Mafia, because we're known to be...
Yeah.
To goof around and not do our jobs.
And now you weren't the only one. You were the most dedicated to my cause.
Yeah. That's probably because I had a crush.
Yeah.
But, even when even when there's like limitations and if you really feel for somebody, you'll go above and beyond. But I never really thought of that, though, that gave us the opportunity to be friends first before we pursued a romantic relationship. Because we did. I remember you would sit at my little cell block there and we would talk and hang out for hours, and I'd ask you, like, don't you have something you should be doing? You'd be like, I am doing it. Keeping an eye on you.
Somebody's got to.
Yeah, right? I would write funny notes in
my logbook.
In your logbook that you carried around with you.
I still have that.
Because you were super squared away. Yeah, I'd hope you did. But then at some point, it turned pretty romantic for us. Probably after your significant other left.
It was quite a bit after, because you went to Kandahar for a while. Or did I go to Kandahar?
Went to Kandahar.
I went to Kandahar for a while.
We even talked on the phone, though, while you were in Kandahar. Yeah.
On our razors.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, best cell phone ever.
Right.
Yeah, it just kind of blossomed naturally.
Yeah.
There was, I don't know, there wasn't any pressure, like when you're dating someone, mainly because it was my biggest downfall with coming home from deployments is not knowing how to make decisions, because I didn't have to pick out my outfit. I didn't have to do my hair, put on makeup, any of that. My sock color was picked for me, So that takes a lot of pressure off of it. You're getting to know someone for who they are, like down to the core.
Yeah, it's pretty raw and stripped away because, like you said, you weren't dolling yourself up every day, and neither was I. And of course, I'm a man, so I didn't have to do much. Shave. I had hair back then.
Yeah. You had more hair here and less hair other places.
Yes. And as I've gotten older, the hair on top of my head has ran away, and it's grown everywhere else, including like my ears and nose and back. And yeah, that's what you got to look forward to, young men, whenever you get in your almost 40s. So I would say we had I don't recall either of us saying, did we say the L word, the big L word before
Not there.
I left? Okay, I didn't think so.
You kind of proved it, though, with your, I'm leaving, and then come back. We're not leaving yet. I'm leaving. And then, we're not leaving yet. Come back. I think 4 times.
I just generally liked hanging out with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're like that today.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I was there. I got there 6 months before you.
Mhm.
So January of the next year, 2007, it's time for us to go home.
Yep.
You know, we're 12 months in country. And I tried to stay. I tried to volunteer to stay. And our battalion commander was like, nope, everybody's going home together. So I got shot down and home we went.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I moved back in with my mom and stepdad when we got back, and me and you stayed in contact via Yahoo Messenger,
Mm-hmm.
some phone calls here and there.
Mm-hmm.
In that time period, I was kind of lost. I didn't really know what to do. I ended up buying. My mom and stepdad lived in a trailer, and I ended up buying that from them because they moved and got a house. And I bought that from them, and then I started doing construction because I knew I needed a job, but I didn't know. I still didn't have a clue. I joined the military to pay for college, and I'd like to point out I never used that money until later in life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in my 30s,
Yeah.
just within like the past 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
I've used it. But like all of my 20s, I didn't use it. So I started working construction. I started working for my uncle, and he didn't hardly pay me nothing. And then a friend of mine, a friend from high school, we kind of started hanging out after I got back. And he was working for a different contractor, and he offered me more money starting off right off the bat. So I started working for him, and that's pretty much what I was doing when you got home.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got home from overseas, you took leave sometime between me getting home and the end of your deployment.
Yeah.
And I, like most people do when they have a ton of money, I spent my money on silly things. No. That was when I picked you up.
Yeah.
Okay. So you come home on leave, and I went up and visited you.
Mm-hmm. And my sister hated you.
Yes. So, not your oldest sister,
No.
but Raquel, your middle sister,
Yeah.
did not like me.
She did not.
And I think that's because she really liked your previous boyfriend.
Yeah.
But, I probably didn't make a good first
You
impression.
didn't. You did and you didn't.
Yeah. Because
the fact that you came all the way from Kentucky should have been enough for her to see.
yeah.
It was more your attire.
Yeah. How long had you been home before I come and saw you?
I think that was.
The night you got home?
I think either that or the next day.
Yeah. So you were already at one of your town is like one. Do you even have a stoplight?
No. One four-way stop.
One four-way
sign,
stop. Yeah.
2 bars.
2 bars.
And like 13 churches.
And like 17 funeral homes.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
For 2,000 people.
Yeah. But anyway, you were at one of the local bars singing karaoke, and I showed up. I was wearing jeans.
You were wearing holy jeans.
Combat boots.
Yep.
Black jungle combat boots. And a cut-off Hells Angels t-shirt.
Confederate flag, Kentucky State, Hells Angels t-shirt.
Yep.
Very cut off.
Yeah. Like barely covering my nipples.
I'm pretty sure that was one of your one nipple shirts.
You couldn't cover
no,
both.
you couldn't cover them both.
One
at a time. And your belt.
Yeah, I had a flask belt.
Yes.
Yeah. But listen, I'm 20. I was 21 years old. I thought I was somebody.
And you need to preface this with, you are from Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah.
And I am
South.
from Wisconsin.
Yeah. I didn't think about that when I was going up there. Running up in the northern state wearing a Confederate flag t-shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was not my biggest fan.
No, I was though.
Yeah.
That's all that mattered.
That's right.
And the next best person was too.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I met your dad the next day.
Yep.
We stayed the night at your friend's house, who lived right next door to the bar.
Yes.
And the next day I met your dad. and we hit it off.
Oh gosh, they're like the same person.
So your dad is now even me and your dad kind of look alike. We didn't then,
Yeah.
but so your dad is biker.
Yep.
Rides Harleys.
Tatted all
Tatted, both arms sleeved,
over.
on his
tats,
neck, on his
yeah,
head.
back and chest.
Yeah,
Everything.
full tatted. Back then he was a well built,
Yeah.
tough looking man, bald headed.
Yeah. You can't measure him without his boots. So he's 6'3",
Yeah,
and he usually ran between 220 and 250.
yeah, he was a big guy. And so we met the next day, and I was driving a truck, 4-wheel drive
Chevy.
truck, Chevy.
Yep.
Had the wheels and tires. I had deployment money.
Yeah.
So I spent it on things I probably shouldn't have, but I was 21, 20. I was probably 20 at that time, so I didn't know any better. But anyways, yeah, we hit it off right off the bat. No, what?
Oh, yeah, you would have been about 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we hit it off right off the bat. And that was rare for your dad, right?
Mm-hmm, very.
He didn't like any of your boyfriends.
I didn't have any boyfriends.
Well, you had the one.
They were all terrified of my dad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had the one.
I think that was a lot of what your dad liked about me is I wasn't afraid of your
Mm.
dad, but I run around with guys that look like your dad all
Mhm.
the time. And so like a young man should do when he's courting a girl, I went up to him and looked him in the eye and shook his hand firm and
Mhm.
introduced myself and called him sir and
Mhm.
did all those things. And then shortly, probably within 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Well, first off, he was like, let me check out your truck. Because he was sitting on the porch when we got there.
Yep.
And so I showed him my truck, and it just so happened I had several guns in the back seat
Yeah.
because I'm also not a smart and lawbreaker, and I carried assault rifles across state lines. And
Mhm.
anyway, but I showed him my guns, or as I showed him the truck, he saw the guns, and he was like, "Oh, you like firearms?" And I'm like, well, "Yeah, I'm in the military, right?"
Mhm.
And then he took me inside and showed me his secret gun case.
Like literally secret. We're talking like old haunted mansion style. Got to turn a picture to open this closet.
Yeah.
No one's supposed to even touch it. And Brad gets first dibs.
Yeah. It was like a coat closet that he had turned into a gun cabinet, but he built a bookshelf in front of it, and you legit turned a picture of Sam.
Yep.
So you've been turning it
I'm
too much and it got
sorry.
loose. You turned a picture to open it up. It was pretty cool.
Mhm.
And he had it full of guns. So yeah, me and Jim hit it off right off the bat.
And then come to find out they have the same birthday.
We had the exact same birthday,
Exact
March the
same.
30th.
It's crazy.
Yep. We're 30.
I don't know.
I'm 38. How old your dad now? I don't know. Okay, sorry. Shouldn't ask that question. We'll edit that part out.
65.
He's older than that.
Shush.
So yeah. Then you had to go back. I think I only stayed a couple of days.
Yeah.
You had to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just continued the overseas thing for a while. It wasn't nothing like super duper serious, but
That's when the L word was brought
was it?
into it. Yeah.
when you were home on leave.
Yeah.
See, I couldn't remember.
You told me that I loved you.
Yeah, I think that's
You
I didn't say I love you. I said you love me, don't you?
No, you said I know you love me.
Yeah.
I was like, whatever.
So technically, I said it first,
You
but
did.
I said it about you.
Yeah.
So you lose.
No.
Yeah.
I had you hooked.
So yeah, you go back. Life continues on for me. I bought a Harley
Mm-hmm.
in between that time
Mm-hmm.
because I had money in my pocket to
I
burn.
think you just thought that was that was gonna win me over.
Maybe.
That's what was gonna
Yeah,
keep
because
me.
your dad rode bikes.
Mm-hmm.
And then fast forward to you get home, and I picked you up from the
Mhm.
airport. So I put my Harley on a trailer, and I pulled it to Chicago. Which is,
O'Hare.
yeah. Listen, this was the days before like GPS and
Mhm.
smartphones having GPS. So I literally, and I'm 20, 21
Did you
years
use
old.
MapQuest?
Yeah, I used
Yeah.
MapQuest. Yeah, but I didn't even do it myself. I went to my insurance agent, Melanie, who I love, and she was like a second mom to me. So I'm living on my own. So I'm not trying to rely on my parents, But I was like in there paying my insurance bill, I
Mhm.
think, and I was like, "Hey, you got a printer? Look up this address for me on MapQuest and print it out." And then it wasn't even the right address.
Oh, no?
No, I had to stop at a gas station,
Mm.
and I quickly realized I was in the wrong part of Chicago, trying to get to the.
Did she
airport.
take you to Midway instead of O'Hare?
It was like center of Chicago, like
Oh.
downtown center of Chicago. I knew I was in a bad place when I went up. I was like, I'm just gonna have to ask somebody. So I go to the gas station. I go up, and like you can't even go inside.
Mhm.
It's a window with like bulletproof glass and
Bars,
bars, and
yep.
yeah. And then I got to looking around, and even the Indian guy inside was like, "You need to go."
You're the wrong color.
Yeah, he's like, you go up here, you take this exit, you go to follow the signs. You need to go now. I'm like, okay, I'm out.
I'm surprised your bike was still there when you got back.
Yeah. So, picked you up, took you home,
Mm-hmm.
and then we did your dad loved my Harley. I think
Mhm.
I stayed there for about a week or so.
Maybe.
Went riding a bunch of times.
Mhm.
I don't think you ever rode with me. You rode with your dad every time we went.
Sorry.
And then I went home, and then we did the long distance thing for how long? About 3 months?
3 months.
And you would come see me, I'd come see you. Mainly you coming to see me because I had a job and you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But at one point, I was like, this is getting... And you were like... Well, you tell the story then if you remember it so much.
You don't
better.
remember why I ended up staying? I was on my way home and I got a phone call
Oh, my
asking
grandmother.
me to come back.
My grandmother passed away.
Mhm.
That's right.
And I stayed the whole week
Yep.
to be with you, and that's when you said,
Yeah. Okay. So I got up to go to work that Monday morning. You started heading home, and then that morning my grandmother passed away, like suddenly of a heart attack. And my grandmother and grandfather pretty much raised me up until I was 8 or 10 because my parents were young. You know, my dad had custody, but we all lived on the same farm, so they raised me. They were like parents to me. And she passed away suddenly, and I called you to come back, and you did.
mm-hmm.
And then you stayed that whole week. And then that's when I was realizing, like, I'm falling hard, and so something's got to happen. Either, and I think I told you, one of us has got to move, or we just need to end this.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember what you said?
Nope.
Oh, you go, well, you've got a house, so I'll just move down here. Like, that easy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I guess we're doing this thing. So, but still no plans of marriage. So we're doing we're being sinners.
Yeah.
We lived together for a little while before being married.
More.
So then, I don't know how much TMI we give. Neither one of us thought we could have kids.
Yeah.
For specific reasons.
Mhm.
So we had actually talked about that
Mhm.
a little bit. So we didn't use any contraception, and before we knew it, here comes Evan.
Mm-hmm.
And so Evan was born.
That was funny. Do you remember how I told you?
Not really.
Oh, well, I something wasn't right, so I took a test, and
Yeah.
it was one of those 1 line you're not, 2 lines you are, and I had
Oh, it's
one
like
and a half lines.
I do remember that.
And I
part.
came out of the bathroom, and I was like, so I might be pregnant. He's like, you might be? Did you take a test? And I said, yep, the test isn't sure either.
And I think I said, well, shit.
Probably.
I'm pretty sure exactly what I said.
Yeah.
But it turned out great. We had
Yeah.
Evan. We still did our thing. You were working at Walmart at the
Mhm.
time. You know, neither one of us are scared of hard work. You got a job at Walmart. You were doing asset protection,
Mm-hmm.
like the people that catch the shoplifters. Once they found out you were in the military, they kind of stuck you in that role, right?
Yeah.
And you even did it while you were pregnant.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Big old
It was like-
8 or 9 month pregnant
Yeah.
woman chasing down shoplifters.
Mhm. I actually had a woman try and get me in trouble for stalking somebody because she saw this pregnant woman following this guy around.
Yeah.
And she went to the store manager. The store manager's like, we know, we got it covered.
Yeah, you were following a guy shoplifting, and she was following
me.
you.
And I still caught the guy shoplifting.
That's pretty good,
Yeah,
man. You're pretty skilled.
Yeah.
And so eventually, I proposed to you. I didn't propose to you because you were pregnant, and I think we actually talked
We
about
did.
that.
I didn't want. Neither of us wanted that.
Yeah, and I said, I'm going to do this for the right reasons because I came from a broken home.
Yes.
And I always knew that was something I did not want to. I kind of skipped over this, but we'll talk about it now. I did not want to ever subject my kids to what I went through because pretty well from the word go, my mom and dad did not get along. I mean, it was constantly arguing, and I'm in the middle of it, using me a lot of times. It just wasn't a good situation for me, and I probably, with what we know about mental problems, I probably had several of those things growing up, just from being in the middle of that and being stuck in the middle and not knowing what to do. And I'm not to say that my parents did it on purpose. They just didn't get along.
Yeah. And they were young.
Oh yeah, they were kids too. They were kids raising kids. So, but where was I even going with this?
You didn't want to subject your kids.
Oh, us being married. Yeah. So we talked about that.
Yep.
Just because you're pregnant, doesn't mean we're going to get married. But it was a few months later that I knew anyways, but that I asked you to marry me. Remember how I did that?
Yeah. You pissed me off.
So it was your birthday.
Uh-huh.
And I thought it was like a super romantic thing. It was like trickery and romantic.
Yeah. So I've been asking for one thing. One thing for my birthday. That's
What
all I wanted.
What did you
A
do?
Nintendo DS.
A Nintendo DS.
Yes.
If that tells you like how long
How
ago
old
this was.
we are.
Nintendo DS. And so we went out to eat because the whole ploy was your birthday. I could trick you into all this. So we went out to eat, which is at Patty's, which is a local nice restaurant.
Fancy fine dining.
Yeah, I don't know if it's fancy.
It's not.
But
It's not.
it's nice. And so we go out to eat, and across the street kinda is a a sailboat harbor, and it had a lighthouse in it, big, and it had a gazebo that went way out into the water, and it was right at sunset, And so we walked out to that gazebo, and I didn't plan any of this as far as like I knew where we were going to go, but I didn't like reserve anything, so I'm just hoping nobody's out there, and luckily there wasn't. There were some people like fishing, but they weren't under the gazebo.
No.
So we walk out and we sit on a little bench. And we're just talking, hanging out. And I was like, oh, I got your birthday present. I need to go back to the car and get it. So I go back to the car and get it. And I'd already bought you the ring. And they put it in a ring box, in like another box, and then in like a necklace box, and then in something else, and then in like a gift bag.
Yeah.
But the last box was about the size of like a Nintendo DS box. And so I brought it out there, and I didn't even do the whole get on one knee. Like we were just sitting next to each other on the bench. I also didn't ask your dad's permission either. We weren't conventional.
No.
But you were like, you were so excited. You saw the gift bag, and when you pulled out the first box and it was like Nintendo DS size, you were like, is it my DS? I was like, you're just going to have to keep opening it.
It wasn't a DS.
I mean, it was more expensive.
Okay. Sorry. I loved it. Too scared to wear it, but I loved it.
Yeah, you love it so much that you never wear it.
Well, it's terrifying. Like, what if I lose it?
So, what? You get down to the ring, and then I look at you and ask you, will you marry me? What'd you say?
Of course.
Of course. Yeah. And so we cried and hugged and all that kind of stuff.
You cried more than me.
Why you got to say it like that?
I mean, I'm just pointing it out. You weren't sure if I was going to say yes.
I really wasn't. Even though you were pregnant with my kid at the time. So, then life went on, and we didn't get married. We were engaged for 2 years.
Yep.
Mainly because we just weren't in a hurry. Not that we should have been. We should have been married, but
hindsight. I mean,
yeah.
If we were now if we were then where we are now, we would have.
Yeah. But we, when Evan was about 2, we got married.
It was right before his 2nd birthday.
Yeah.
He was our ring bearer.
He was our ring bearer.
Cutest little freaking ring bearer ever.
Yep. He had red chucks.
Red chucks with a
The
pinstripe
vest.
little suit.
Yep. We got married here in Mayfield. Really low key. Your mom made. I think the whole wedding cost us like $500.
Less, but yeah.
Yeah. Your mom made your wedding dress.
Mm-hmm.
I wore a suit that I'd already had.
I think the funniest part about my wedding dress was I called her and I told her I wanted her to make it, and I think the box that the picture was in was still there
at her house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told her where to find it, and it was a picture of Martina McBride, a perfume ad from a magazine that I had torn out when I was in high school.
Yep.
I was never the girl that like, oh, I want to plan my wedding, but I saw this dress and I was like, that's it.
If
Like,
I ever got married,
super simple but beautiful.
Yeah.
And she ended up making it and using my middle sister Raquel as the model to do all the measurements.
Yeah.
And then doing last minute seamstressy stuff when she got done.
Yeah. Your mom is like the Northern Martha Stewart.
She's like Betty Crocker and Martha Stewart rolled into one.
Mm-hmm. She does gardening and
Mhm.
seamstressy and cooks amazing. And,
Bakes.
yeah, she does all that stuff.
Yeah.
She's like well, my mom can do that stuff. She just doesn't.
My mom loves to do that
Yeah,
stuff.
she loves
that's
to do it.
She does. You remember the wildflower bush she made?
Yeah. We were. I don't even remember why we were up there, but you were pointing it out. Like, Mom, how did you get this bush? It was like the prettiest.
It looked
bush.
like a mum, but the flowers were all different.
Yeah, and she said,
Or not a mum, a hydrangea almost.
"Yeah, nobody's
something.
gonna know what you're talking
Someone will.
about." Yeah, it's a man's podcast.
Oh, speaking of, we have a conversation to have.
yeah, we'll do that later.
Okay.
But she said, I just cut open a pack of wildflowers and just dumped them all in the same hole, and it made like this real
It was
pretty bush.
beautiful. Yeah, she's crazy. She's got the greenest thumb.
Yeah. But yeah, we get married and
Mhm.
life goes on.
Mhm.
We actually, at one point, we talked about moving to Wisconsin
Mhm.
because you were getting homesick.
Yep.
And
You were still.
I was still doing construction.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And your brother-in-law, my brother-in-law too. I was gonna say no, it's your brother. No, it's your brother-in-law, but also my brother-in-law. Sorry, Wally. He owned a construction company, and so we got talking about it. I was like, we can sell this trailer. We're still in the trailer. Like, we can sell this trailer and we'll move to Wisconsin. I was like, I don't care where I live as long as I'm with you. I was that hopeless romantic. But then it was like maybe a week later, and we'd even told people, hey, we're fixing to leave.
We weren't in the trailer.
Where were we at?
We were on 97.
Oh, okay. So we were in a rental house.
Yeah.
Well, that made it even easier because all we had to do was just move.
Yep.
But we had even told people we were moving.
Yeah, because
my
people...
my stepmom was watching Evan at the time, and she got very upset with us.
Yeah.
And that even caused a little bit of rift between my dad and me at the time. But anyway, it's all good now.
Yep.
But about a week or so after we made the decision, then I got the call.
got the call.
I got the call. Got the call that I got the job at Vanderbilt.
Yep.
And you looked at me and said, you won't find a job like that
No.
up there, so we'll just stay.
I mean, there's one job like that up there, but the
Yeah.
waiting list is like 18 years long.
Yeah. What is it? Scott Forge. Yeah, it's like a steel company.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so we stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've just been grinding along ever since. I think we should go. I feel like at this point we got to talk about our faith and like what it looked like.
I mean, it was stagnant. We weren't bad people. We weren't doing good things.
So, yeah, we obviously weren't doing good things. When I was a kid growing up, we went to church. We went to small Southern Baptist churches, and I was actually saved at Emmanuel Baptist when I was about 12-ish. And, but then, into early adulthood, is when I kind of strayed and was not going to church or pursuing anything God. I remember feeling conviction or feeling not right about the things we were doing.
Yeah. You know it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's not like you're doing it and you're like, oh, this is right. It's not like you know you're doing
My
wrong.
feelings for you were right, but what we were doing was wrong. And when I started working for Jamie and them, they were very godly employers. I was the employee. They're very godly employers, and he's the one that pushed me to you need to be in church. And his brother was a pastor of a church. And so we ended up going to their church some. We tried some churches when we were.
Yeah, but my church experience was the opposite of yours. So I grew up in. Our church was bigger.
Yeah.
To People's Church for the most part, and then my middle sister started going to a church in Rockford when I was early teenage years, and like I said, I grew up in church. I went to Awanas. I don't have a memory like that, so I couldn't tell you then when I was saved.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a clear recollection of being at that church with my sister and the overwhelming conviction and the call of God. And that is, I was 14 years old, and that is when
You remember the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I was used to big contemporary churches, big music, big bands, lights, that kind of stuff. So going to that itty bitty church, and I was like,
yeah, singing hymns.
What is this? I don't know. I didn't even know. Graham's church had hymns, but more often than not, my mom and her sisters would sing, and those were more contemporary style songs.
Yeah. So then, after we're married.
Your mom got us to come to.
Yeah, I was gonna say this whole time my mom has gotten remarried. She's on her third marriage now, and she's gotten remarried to a guy.
Yeah, they got married right after us.
Oh yeah, we got married on the 2nd, and they got married on the 5th.
9th, I think.
No, 5th.
Was it the 5th? Okay.
Yeah. We're 10-2-10. They were 10-5-10. They eloped and went to Vegas.
Yeah.
But they were older, so they didn't have no. And it was, I think, his second and her third, so it wasn't like super special. But anyways, yeah, my mom they started coming here where we go to church now, and they kept, she just kept inviting us. She wasn't really pressuring or anything like that. She just kept inviting us, hey, come to church, come to church, come to church. And then it was only the barn.
Yeah.
We didn't have the new facility. And was it the first time we came that we got roped into doing kids, or the second? It was very early on.
I don't remember ever doing kids here.
Yeah. You don't remember that? We got, So the lady, bless her heart, I'm not going to call her out, but she was check-in for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to drop Evan off, and she was like, "Oh, you're Tika's son?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "We really need some help in the preschool or whatever that toddler. Would you want to do that?" And I'm a yes man. You did it with me. Don't shake your head. You did.
I must have blocked it out.
You blocked it out.
It was terrifying.
You don't do kids.
No.
You don't even really like our kids.
I love our kids.
Oh, I said like.
I know. I heard what you said. I love our kids.
So we did it, and my mom was ticked when she found out, because we were visitors.
Yeah.
We weren't members of the church or
Nothing.
partners, whatever the cool name is now that we call people, right? So she was ticked, and then she asked me, like, "Why did you even do it?" I'm like, "Well, they needed help.
Because I'm a yes man, and I can't say no."
I'm a yes man. I'm like, "Well, they needed help." She's like, "You don't. That's not how this works." I think she chewed that girl's butt. But anyways, that's not important.
No.
But I do remember that the first time, worship started, and this church is like the band, the lights, house lights pulled down, some stage lights, and you're just in your element. Mm-hmm. I looked over at you, and I was like, "This is not happening. This is a rock concert. I did not like it. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember the song. I don't remember any of the songs. I don't remember what the message was about. Nothing. I just remember being pissed off the whole time I was here."
That's good.
I'm just being honest.
I know you are. We didn't go back for a while.
We did not come back.
I was very disappointed.
Yeah. Well, I think we went back to Priorsburg.
I'm sure we did.
My boss's church. Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, there was nothing wrong with their church.
No.
Their church was great. The people were great. They were kind. The music was good.
And we weren't really all in, though.
No.
We were just going on Sunday morning. We didn't go to Sunday school.
Because that's what a family does.
Yep. We were just doing what you did in Western Kentucky. We live in the Bible Belt. You go to church to say you go to church. And if I'm being honest, I probably just started coming so my boss would shut up every day, But because of his obedience and persistence, it got us back in the place that we needed to be.
Yes.
Eventually. I never felt really at home at their church, but it was a church, We were doing what we should be doing. Air quotes. But then when did we come back here?
It was right around Avery.
Okay. So we have a second child.
I remember being here pregnant.
Okay. So we get pregnant with second child. We bought a house that we'd only planned on living in for about 5 years, and we're still in it.
We bought a house, and 2 weeks later, someone gets laid off.
Oh, yeah, I got laid off.
You did?
Yeah. That was a little scary.
It was very scary.
We signed, I don't think it was 2 weeks. I think I signed the papers.
Might have been the next day.
And the next day I got the notice.
Yeah.
And then it didn't take effect for a week or two.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
That was scary. But I ended up making more money while I was off because I'd only been working there for a few months or a year or so. And I was working swing shift at the time. So even on my off days, I was still doing construction. And so I called my construction boss and I was like, hey, I'm getting laid off. You got anything? He's like, see you Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Meet me here. So I drew unemployment. Sinner.
I
drew unemployment, made cash money on the side. I never had to go look for a job because, I was planning on going back when they called. They kept telling us, couple months, you're just going to be laid off a couple months. And it ended up being 3 or 4 months probably. So, but we did all right. And then we started going. My mom kept inviting us. She just kept inviting us to church. And I think the new building was here then.
Yeah.
So we come back and we go to the new building. I still didn't like it. I remember the first time I didn't like it. But I saw how passionate you were and how much you liked it.
Before we get into this part, can we take another break? I'm sorry.
Peace out, Splatter.
I'm sorry.
Sure, let's take a break.
Love you.
Feel better?
Yes.
All right, so we started going to church here, his house. Contemporary style church. Like I said, I didn't like it. But I knew that you loved it. Like I could look over at you and see you in your element.
It grew on you.
Pull your mic in. Ain't no way.
It grew on you.
It grew on me. I'll admit it grew on me. And so you immediately wanted to get kind of plugged in and start. Mm-hmm. So because my mom went here and they were in leadership, I guess you would say. Yeah. So we get plugged in. Your passion is singing, and you got involved with production team first, doing sound, doing the soundboard, and then eventually got into on the worship team. And I am my own worst enemy always. I created my service because I opened my big fat mouth. Nothing? You're just agreeing with me?
You don't have anything nice to say.
Yeah, so I opened my big fat mouth. I went to pick our son up from the kids area, and at that time, his house, there was no kind of security or anything. There was just my mom was the kids coordinator, the director, whatever cool term, whatever title you want to give her. And she had a man that would be at the door to the kids area as
to
like
check stickers.
Yep, to check stickers as like kind of like a security guard. And I don't remember if we were leaving early or whatever. I remember there not being many people. And I go back there to get our son. And I just walked right by. And the guy was like, "What's up?" I don't know if he knew me. I didn't know him. Or if he just knew that I was, you know, Tika's son or whatever. But he just kind of gave me I don't think I had my sticker showing.
Probably not.
I don't really remember.
We're not very good rule followers.
We're not very good rule followers.
Which is funny.
Yeah, because most of the time we have to enforce the rules.
Right.
But those are the ones who usually don't follow the rules.
Yeah. That's why we're both MPs.
Yeah. But so I just walked back, got my son, left, and I think I commented to my mom or maybe even some church leadership about it. And they were like, maybe you should look into starting a security team. And I think I may open my big mouth that I was ex-military, you know. I think by this time we're both out.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah. They know.
That we're both.
Well, we are now. I'm saying at that time in history, we were both out of the military.
Right. But they already knew. Your mom already told them all about us.
Oh, well, yeah.
And
You're talking about church leadership.
And if she didn't, Randy did.
Yeah. So they're like, why don't you start a security team? And then the pastor that we had at that time, he was kind of a little bit paranoid anyways. And so he was all about it.
Yep.
So me and 3 other guys, one of them was ex-police officer, one of them was a bailiff, one of them was ex-military, wanted to be a police officer. We started a security team. And I was the leader of it, you know. We kind of started off as like some 4 co-leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of those guys moved on or whatever, and I ended up being the leader of the security team. And that's what I did for a long time out here at church. 6 or so years, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I was just the leader of the security team. But that came with a lot of responsibility, you know. But we did it right, you know.
Yeah.
And still do. I'm not the leader of that anymore, but I'm like an overseer, or what do they call it? We call it when you're not on the team, but they ask you questions and you're still kind of giving guidance. It's
mentor?
Like mentor. Yeah, I'm kind of like a mentor to the team. That's why I keep you around.
I know, right?
Our brains work. Our brains
sometimes
complement each other sometimes. But so that's what I did for a long time. And then by this time before that, our church went through a split. You're on the worship team.
Yep.
I'm the leader of security, and our church goes through a split.
Mm-hmm.
We're running like 3 services, probably 1,500 people. And the church at the time did not have like an elder team. They had a leadership team, which was just basically like a business team.
Yeah.
Not like true elder spiritual leadership, like a business team is what they had. And then the lead pastor, and he kind of ran everything. He had his thumb or finger on everything. And he ended up, there's a lot of stress on the pastor. And he was dealing with some of that stress, and I think he made the comment he was going to quit to the staff, thinking, you know, he was basically bluffing, and they called his bluff. They were like, all right, turn in your resignation. And he did. And so then we had no lead pastor, but we had a staff. But that only lasted for a week.
I thought the staff left first.
No.
Okay.
Pastor left.
A week or 2.
Yeah, it was like a week or 2 because
I was pregnant with Avery because your mom told you to tell me to stay home because she was worried about it stressing me out.
That's right. Yeah, you were about to pop.
Yeah.
So anyway, pastor leaves. The leadership team.
That can't be right.
It is.
2014?
I don't remember what year it was.
Oh, that's what year Avery was born.
I know, but I don't remember what year it was.
Mm.
Anyways, leadership team somehow made the staff mad. I don't know all the details, and I don't really care.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And so they all quit on a Sunday morning.
Yep.
And it was craziness. I was at work,
mm-hmm.
and you were informed to stay home.
Yeah.
But I was.
May have been a baby.
Huh?
He may have been a baby.
Yeah. So for like 18 months, our church kind of got together, those who stayed. A lot of people left with the pastor.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people left with the staff because,
Mm-hmm.
People are like people are sheep, and they tend to follow who they think their shepherd is. So people left. And we went from a church of 12 to 1,500 to about 200.
I was going to say 150
Yeah.
is what it felt like.
Yeah.
A 1,500 person church was ran by 150 people for 18 months.
Oh, it was ran by less than that.
Yeah.
It was ran by like 50 to 70.
Yeah.
But anyway, so for the next year and a half, 18 months, we had elders.
Mm-hmm.
We had a leadership team, but no pastor. And so we're on the search for a pastor. And everything continues on. I mean, we still had services every Sunday. We had service, and there was somebody in that pulpit preaching, like
Mm-hmm.
God provided.
Yep.
It was pretty neat. But the interesting thing is my mom was on staff, and she quit and she left the church, and everybody automatically assumed that we were going to.
Yep.
That we were going to follow. And you prayed about it. I prayed about it, and
I think this is where our walk truly
got serious.
like the roots were deep.
Yeah.
Like our roots dug deep in this part.
Yeah.
We did what God called us to in that moment. We didn't just follow. We didn't just do what everyone thought we were going to do or do what we thought we should do. We dug deep. We talked to God, and we listened.
Yeah.
That's where I see we were doing security, we were doing worship, but that is where I see our true roots dug deep.
Yeah. Where we got serious in our callings, I feel like.
Just in our walk.
Yeah, because there was no real discipleship in our lives.
None.
Like we weren't being discipled at all. Life groups or small groups were a thing, and we were a part of my mom's for a while.
We defaulted to your mom's.
Yeah, but it didn't ever really feel like home.
Oh.
And then we weren't in any other life groups until we started one.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm jumping the gun. So everybody thought we were going to just follow the parents, and even they did.
Mm-hmm.
They were real surprised when we prayed, and I can't speak for you, but for me personally, what I felt like God was telling me is, you're a warrior, and I've raised you up. I've chosen you to fight this battle, and that's where you need to stay. You need to be.
Pretty sure we had that conversation because I told you, like, we're soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what we're called for. This is the time we're called for. God is saying, put on the armor and fight.
Yeah. And so that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And so it did a couple of things. Like one, when we told my mom, she was like, her and my stepdad at the time, Randy, were like, are you guys sure this is what they were very surprised. I'm not going to say they weren't happy, but they were very surprised, and they questioned us a lot. And we were just like, hey, we're grown. We pray. We talk to God. This is where we feel like this is our home. This is where we feel like we need to be. And then ultimately they were accepting of it. But then two, the first Sunday we showed back up, they treated us like we were like spies in a foreign land.
Yeah.
Because they were, first of all, everybody was surprised when we come walking in. Like, what are y'all doing here? We're like, we're here for church. Yeah. Like, you guys aren't going with Tika and Randy? No, this is our church home. We prayed about it, And so I know I had a talk with the leadership team of them, like, hey, you're our head of security. Are you staying? I'm like, yeah, we're staying. This is our church home. And there wasn't really any questioning. They were just like, okay, good.
I don't think anyone really believed it until like a few weeks later.
A while, yeah. It was probably a little while before they believed it.
Yeah.
But we actually, there was like some town hall meetings from the church, some from the pastor who left, trying to tell their sides of the story. We went to all that because we wanted to know the truth.
Mm-hmm. But it didn't
change anything for us.
And it didn't. God was already telling us.
Yeah. This was our home. This was where we were supposed to be. So for 18 months, we had no pastor. We had elders who led, and they did a good job. I have no complaints. And we continued on. I think it was a great thing for our church.
Absolutely.
I know it seemed bad at the time. People cried. People were very upset. People
We're
left.
still upset.
Some people were still upset.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to tell you what it did. For us personally, it made us step up.
Mm-hmm.
It made us get more serious about.
Well, there would never have been an opportunity for us to step up.
True.
Outside of that.
Yeah. And then some of our best friends right now, Lee and Kelly, right?
Mm-hmm.
People like that had to, because there was no one else, people had to step up and step into roles that they wouldn't have normally done.
Yep.
Leadership and different things, serving.
Mm-hmm.
And we ran, the church was ran by 50 to 75 people.
Two paid staff positions.
Yeah, like a secretary
Mm-hmm.
and financial, right?
Yeah.
Donna and Terry.
And Miss Diane. Oh no, she didn't come.
She come back later.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, but that's what we did for the next 18 months. And then we had a team of seasoned saints that were searching for a pastor the whole time. And we had a couple that we thought were going to be the one and didn't end up being. This whole time I'm running security still, your worship.
Just worship.
Just on the worship team.
Yep.
We lost our worship leader when the staff left. So we had an interim for a while. She was with us for a little while. And then she left.
Not until we got the pastor.
Oh, she left after that. Okay. And then 18 months, then we finally found the pastor we have now. Great man, great family. All right, so we get a pastor. Mm-hmm. And then we lose the worship leader. And then another lady steps up. She does worship for a while. And then she ends up stepping down. And then the ball is placed in your court.
Yep.
I don't really remember how that went down. Did you apply? Were you the only person? I can't remember how it went.
I had already been helping with planning center, scheduling.
That's
and
right.
Songs and stuff like that. And so it was just kind of it was an interim thing.
Yeah.
That just stuck.
Mm-hmm.
The nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty is neither here nor there.
Yeah. I was just trying to get it right in my
Yeah.
head. But so during that time, we get the pastor. We come up with new bylaws in the church. We're starting to grow again. We now have a system of elders. We have 6 elders and the pastor who lead the church. You're the worship leader. As elections for elders are happening, I got nominated. I'm pretty young. I think one of our qualifications for being an elder is you got to be at least over 30. But most of our elders at this time are men. The youngest one's probably in his mid 40s. We got some older men who are being elders, which is smart because they've lived more life. Mm-hmm. They're wiser. Hopefully, they've been walking with God longer. And I don't know I guess maybe because of my leadership role in security, and we had a good team, and everything just went well. Several times I got nominated to be an elder. And the first 2 times, I just said no. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't feel like it was the time or I was ready. Mm-hmm. Then the 3rd time I got nominated, I actually had a seasoned saint tell me this. I was talking to him about, how do you know if what you're praying about is the direction you should go? If you're walking in your calling, if God's answering your prayers, how do you know this stuff? And I pray all the time, and if I feel like, there's the saying, you have your head, your gut, and your spirit. If 2 of the 3 is feeling it, go with it, and that's kind of the way I've done it for a long time. But this was something serious. That role is a leadership in the church, and the Bible clearly states that no one should aspire or yearn to be a teacher or leader because you're held to a higher standard. And I took that very seriously. And he said, well, just pray specific prayers. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, I adopted a young girl one time. And he said, when we were going through the adoption process, he said, I prayed to God, if it be under X amount of dollars for this adoption to go through, then I'll know it's of you and I'll do it. He said, and I was being realistic, he said, but I made up a number in my head. And if it's over that, then I'll know it's not for us to do. And he said it came in like $100 or $200 less than that number. He's like, so I felt like that was, he said, so pray a prayer like that, he's like, God's not afraid of you praying something like that. I was like, all right, well, that's what I'm going to do. And so I just prayed for weeks leading up. I knew I'd been nominated, but I didn't know by how many people. And so I was like, God, if I've gotten 3, I felt like that was a good number. If I've gotten 3 nominations or more, then I'll accept. I'll go through the process. Still a process. Being nominated doesn't mean you're it, But I was like, I'll go through the process. If it's less than that, then I'm not even going to deal with it. So I called to the office and I said, I don't care who they are. I just want to know how many nominations I got. And they said, you got 2. I was like, sweet, I'm out. They said, are you accepting the nomination? I said, nope. On to, keep on doing what I'm doing. I found out later in life that there was one of our close friends who had the nomination form filled out with my name on it, magnetized to his fridge. And he said, I prayed over it, every time I walked by. And he said, I never felt the need to take it and turn it in. And that would have been the 3 to help me go through the process.
So about this time was also when you were brought onto the worship team.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Our bass player left.
Yeah. Well, no, I started playing with the youth before he left.
Oh.
Because he was the only one.
Yeah.
And off and on, since I was in Afghanistan, I played guitar.
Yeah.
Not well. And when I say off and on, I mean I'd pick it up and play until I'd get decent, and then I'd put it down and not play for a year, and I did that off and on. But I kind of knew that I could probably pick up bass. It's got 2 less strings than the guitar.
I wish you'd teach me.
I will.
Okay.
I told you I would. But so my thought process was I'll learn bass and then I'll just play once every now and then. I could physically see him like getting burnout.
We all could.
He had to play every week. And so I was like, I just give him a break. I'm running security. I don't really want to play a lot, but I'll give him a break. And knows. Well, at first I got told no.
Yep.
I got told
not by me.
No, not by you. You weren't the leader then.
No. But
I got told that my talents could be used better elsewhere.
Yeah.
Since then, that lady has apologized, and she's like, I was in the wrong, and it was water under the bridge. I didn't hold anything against her. But anyway, I started practicing and playing with the youth. And not long after I started playing with the youth, he quit and left. And then I became our only bass player for a long time.
Well, it was almost like another mini split happened.
Kind of.
Quite a few left all at once.
Yeah, well, when new pastors come on, that they have their way of doing things, and not that their way was bad or wrong, but some people didn't like it. So
the abruptness was hard for some.
Yeah.
We'd been running. I mean, there was a set group of people that had been running the church for 18 months. So to have someone come in and just start flipping the script, like, it was hard. It was hard for all of us, but some harder than others.
Yeah. Well, I think for me and you, this was just always our church home.
Yeah.
Just it didn't matter who was in charge or who was running things until God tells us to leave.
Yeah.
This is where we are.
And we were just there to help. Like, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Where we were, what we were doing, as long as we were doing what God wanted us to do.
What is the mission of the church? It's to spread the gospel. It's to equip the body of believers, and we just wanted to be a part of that. Yeah. It didn't really matter what it looked like. And so I'm on the worship team. I'm running security.
Not just playing anymore either.
Oh yeah, I sing some.
You sing very well.
Oh, thanks. I was fishing.
Both melody and harmony.
Now you're just lying.
No.
Yeah.
You just don't always sing them when you're supposed
when
to.
I'm supposed to. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard.
This morning at men's breakfast, I was singing. I got my guitar, and immediately everybody got quiet, and I wanted to like sing a little bit first, so I didn't start in harmony and off key. I've been known to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't have, at the men's breakfast, I don't have you to get me back on key. So, but anyway, so we're just serving God and living our lives and doing all the things. And then eventually you were named permanent worship leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I got nominated again the next time it rolled around. And there was no question this time. It seemed right, and what God had in store, I prayed about it, and I felt a peace about it, like immediately. There was nothing. So I accepted the nomination and went through the process, and I got voted on. So I am now the youngest elder that we have on staff. We had 6 elders, and I'm the youngest. Not by a lot. I think there's one other guy who's just a year or two older than me. But so I've been serving in that role for about a year. I stepped down from the head of security just because it's a lot of stuff. And one of the guys that I kind of raised up under me took over. You're worship leading. We're worshiping. Our kids are in church serving. Our oldest son's, who's 15, he does youth on Wednesday night, but then on Sundays he does pro presenter, helps in the kids. All those good things. Mm-hmm. Sometime in between there, was it maybe while we didn't have a pastor when we started the Sunday night group? 2019 is when we did it because it was before COVID.
He was here.
Okay, yeah. I don't remember if it was before him or not.
I'm pretty sure it was after.
But we had several people that was approaching us to start a life group or a small group, Bible study, whatever. And we were heavy into lifting weights and strongman at that time. We've skipped that whole part. Mm-hmm. We could talk for probably hours about.
We could. What time is it?
Our life. We're about an hour and a half in right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's long, or you think that you don't feel like it's been that long?
I don't feel like it's been that long.
I know it goes fast.
I don't, and I do. Like, I feel like I've been sitting here forever trying not to look at the camera, and I feel like it hasn't been that long.
Yeah. We'll try and get done about 2 hours-ish. Okay. But we had several people approach us about starting a life group, and we talked about it. And we're like, let's do a workout one.
Yeah.
So we had my dad and stepmom.
That was pre-pastor.
I know, but that's what turned into our Sunday night group now. I mean, it's always been the same group.
I know. It just doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. So we started a workout one. We did Bible study and we worked out. It went well for a while, and then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. Oh, there was the fire. Yep. So there was a fire. One of the ladies in our group passed away in a fire, and that
kind of fell.
That split us up for a while.
It was hard on everybody because
she was a rock star.
She was.
She was so good. Mm-hmm. No doubt in my mind, she's in heaven with babies on her knees, because that's what she did. She worked in the nursery,
and just in the short time that we did the group, she had lost something like a crazy 60, 70 pounds.
Yeah, because she was a big lady.
Yeah.
But she was so strong, and it was
so motivated.
Yeah, it was hard on a lot of us. So that split the group for a while.
Then COVID happened. I don't like this.
Well, just stop hitting it.
I'm not trying to.
Be still. But yeah, we just tried to be obedient to what God had us to do. The last couple of years, we have really been pushing discipleship, because our church before the split, I'm not saying it was all about the numbers, but there was not what I would consider true discipleship. There was some life groups and there were things, and they were doing the cool stuff, but not what I would consider true discipleship. And so I've just felt the calling from God, even before I was an elder here at our church, that that discipleship needed to take place.
Mm-hmm.
And so we even shifted and I talked about this in the intro of this podcast, we even shifted our style of our life group. We went from doing cool Bible studies
I
to
remember.
expository.
Told you I wasn't going to be.
Yeah, you did. I was like, hey, I told you, I was like, this is what I feel like God's calling us to do, calling me to do as the leader.
And you said, it might just be me and you sitting there. And I said, it's going to be you.
Yeah, you said, if nobody else is coming, I ain't coming either. But, we were obedient. And by we, I mean me, and you supported me and came along. Why do you keep doing your head like that?
I was obedient.
I know. By supporting me, you
Yes.
came along. And really, our group has done nothing but flourish.
Immediately.
Yeah. It was kind of neat to see people's hunger to just study the Bible.
It was instant verification from God.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to do what I asked you to do? Here's the people.
Yeah. And it's been, we've been doing that for a couple years now, because it took us 9 months to get through the book of Romans.
Yeah.
So, but it's been kind of
you heard that right. 9 months to get through the book of Romans.
Yeah. But
it ebbs and flows.
Yeah. Revolving door. Some people come, stay. We've always had our core, 15 or 20 that have been with us since the beginning. But
even that in our church is considered a large life group.
Yeah. Well, we've had as many as like 40 or 50.
Yeah. Pretty sure we were pushing 60 at one time.
Yeah. It was to the point to where the elders were talking with me like, we're going to have to split your group up or like turn it into a Sunday night Bible study. I was like, whatever we got to do, God's going to provide.
God took care of that real quick.
Yeah. And so that's what we've been doing for a while. And then now me and you are in discipleship groups.
Yep.
This is my second time through. I'm actually leading this one, and you're leading yours.
I would say mine is co-leadership.
Yeah.
And it's not just me and one other person. Like, there are quite a few women over the course of the year that have quickly stepped into that role.
Yeah.
And I love it, because we now have quite a few that are going to sprout and grow and do the next one.
Well, that's what's beautiful about the discipleship group is it's meant to build leaders. Like, you're diving into the word a lot deeper than, I've got a guy in my group who's been walking with God for 50 something years. And he said, I've never done anything like this, because we read it's the F260 plan. So you read 5 days a week, you read anywhere from a chapter to 2 chapters, and then you do some journaling on it. And then you come together once a week and you discuss it. And you build bonds with those people like none other. The ladies do better at it than the men. We're getting there. We're like 4 weeks from being done with it, because it's just a year-long thing. And we're just now getting to, to be really vulnerable. But you ladies, it didn't take y'all long at all. But it is gender specific. It's just there's 8 men in mine, and you've got 10 ladies in yours. How would you say that the D groups affected your walk?
Oh, tremendously. Just the amount of time spent in his word. It's just eye-opening how much I was missing. Like, I feel like my walk was strong. It was just missing that one piece. Like, worship is my world, and for a long time, that's what I would tell people. Like, this is how I talk to God, And it wasn't until this group that I really realized what true talking to God was. Like, I was praising him. Now I'm talking to him.
Yeah.
And now I know when he's talking to me.
Right.
It's incredibly deepened everything.
I think it slingshotted my sanctification process.
You like using that word.
Sanctification?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't,
because people don't know what it is.
I know, but I don't want to use it because I feel like I'm going to stumble on it.
It's not that hard.
It's like saying cinnamon.
Cinnamon?
Yeah.
Sanctification. But it's an important word.
It is an important word.
And it's an important process in our lives. It's the process of cleaning it up to become more like Jesus, become more holy every day. Not to say we don't mess up, but every day our lives, we try and look more and more like Jesus.
I know. I told you that. Remember what I told you the other day?
What?
Jesus wants us to suck less every day.
Jesus,
They're going to see Jake's episode
I
before
know,
this.
yeah. Jesus doesn't want us to suck.
I understand. I know what he said.
Oh,
This
okay.
is what I'm saying. Jesus knows we're going to suck because
Yeah.
we're sinners. So I'm saying Jesus just wants us to suck a little bit less every day.
I would say he would agree with that.
Okay.
Jesus would.
I'm not saying Jake's wrong.
No.
Jesus doesn't want us to suck,
Yeah.
but he knows we're going to.
So he just wants us to suck less.
Yes, suck
every
less.
day.
Jesus wants you to suck less
Gotcha.
every day.
We need to get that on a bumper sticker.
T-shirt. Totally
Oh,
wearing
t-shirt.
that for my Sunday T-shirt.
Probably not a good idea.
What?
Not from the stage.
You're such a party pooper. Kelly will disagree with you.
Yeah, probably. So we're on the discipleship path. We our goal is just to pour into others.
Yep.
You know, you're doing it in your D group, I'm doing it in mine. We co-lead Sunday night group that's couples, and then I teach young adults on Wednesday night. We're kind of getting to a point to where we're fixing to put some stuff down. Well,
You're
you are too.
using the wrong word.
I need to. I'm carrying way too many bags, and that's not always healthy.
It's not at all.
Our pastor just did a message a couple weeks ago. You remember he talked about serving with one hand empty.
Yeah, I kept looking at you.
I know. I felt you.
Okay.
And the reason is because if we serve with both hands full, like I'm doing right now, because I'm doing a lot of things, and hopefully it's just for a season. But when we serve with both hands full, we don't have a free hand to help anybody or be available if God calls us in a certain
I'm
direction.
pretty sure you just grow another hand,
I do.
and pick up another bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a good trait of mine. And you've told me about that for years.
Yep.
And a lot of that's because I'm a yes man.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say I have gotten better.
When?
I've told people no.
Who?
In the last 6 months.
Who?
Leadership, I've told them no. There's been things brought to me like, we feel like you're best for this. And I'm like, no, I cannot possibly do another thing. And then within the next month or two, I got a couple of things I'm going to put down, and I'm not picking them back up. So my focus will be one-handed, to where I have a free hand for my family or whoever else. I don't ever want my wife to feel like she's falling off the edge of the plate.
I'm supposed to be the main course.
You are the main course always.
Thank you, Lee.
You may want to say that louder. I don't know if that comes through the mic.
He totally heard. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah. Lee, my twin, gave my wife ammo to use
buddy.
against me.
Pow, pow.
But so let's talk a little bit. Your favorite saying, let's land this plane.
Yeah. 35 minutes later.
1 hour later.
2 years later.
Let's land this plane. Let's talk about marriage, because I feel like we have a good and we have a strong marriage. And I feel like most people would agree with that. Not to say we've got a perfect marriage, but we do have a strong marriage. And we've already hinted a little bit about why we feel it's that way, because we were friends first. We were kind of not forced to, but the way that everything worked out, we were friends first.
Circumstantially.
Yeah. And I even have friends that don't understand it, because I'll have friends that'll reach out to me and like, hey, you want to go do such and such or do this or do that? I'm like, no, I'm good. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm staying at home, because unlike some marriages, I'm not saying they're all like this, but you are my best friend.
You're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
And so, I just generally like being around you and hanging out with you.
I generally like being around you.
That's
also.
good. Most of the time.
Most of the time, unless you're eating.
Why don't you like being around me when I'm eating?
Because you have very thin cheeks.
I chew with my mouth closed.
I said you have very thin cheeks. And you like to fill your mouth with food, like completely.
Didn't you look that up sometime, what that term was?
Yeah.
You don't remember it, though, do you?
No.
Where you have it's not a phobia, but
No.
it's
An annoyance.
an irritation of hearing people chew.
Like to the point where I can hear you chew from across the room.
I think you're making that up.
No. But I love you. And I love your thin cheeks.
What would you say has made our our marriage successful?
Besides being friends first and you being my best friend, I think it's our willingness to consistently strive to communicate. Not saying we do a great job all the time, but we try.
Mm-hmm.
You know when I have something on my mind and I'm not saying it, and the same goes for me. I know when you, and it may take me a day or two to get you to finally tell me what's bugging you, but my willingness to continue to try to communicate with you.
So communication, you feel like makes our, not that we're great at it, but that we always try and do it.
Yeah. Like we never give up. Like I don't want to become a couple that has just given up on communicating. Like, oh, he's not going to talk to me, so I'm just not going to talk to him.
Right.
And I want that openness. I want that communication always.
Yeah. There's been very few times where, you know, a lot of couples say never go to bed angry.
Mm-hmm.
We have before, but for the most part, I feel like we try. And
if we have, it's because one of us doesn't know the other's angry.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's good, and I agree with that. That's something that we've always strived for, to communicate.
Even before we were on our walk, we were truly on our walk. Yeah. Even before that, I can remember in the trailer us having a conversation on the couch and be like, we have to talk to each other whether we want to or not. And you were like, I know. This was back when you had like the weight of the world on your shoulders because you were doing construction and we had a kid come in and blah, 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 blah. So, but I think that early on we made that decision together that communication would be a priority for us.
Yeah. I agree with that. So since this is a man's podcast, and let's go ahead and cover the topic while we're here before I ask this next question. You want to say what you were asked?
I shared the TikTok side of the podcast, and I had a woman comment on it saying that she watched the first episode and she loved it, and she was distraught because you said, sorry ladies, this podcast isn't for you.
Yes.
So she asked her husband to let her know if there was any more good episodes, but don't tell Brad that she's watching them.
So let me clarify. I did say that, and I'm still figuring this out. I'm new to this. By no means do I mean that women cannot listen to this podcast.
Well, they're going to do it more if you tell them they can't. That's how I was.
Oh, yeah? Well, then maybe I should say they can't. But no, by no means, because I know that anybody can learn from this. Even I'm learning constantly as I do this, as I interview others, even as me and you talk. But my point is this podcast will cater to men. Yeah. As of right now. I don't mean it won't morph into something else. I have learned very quickly that I don't put stipulations on God. Because I thought the same thing about some of the groups that we lead. You know, this is going to strictly be this or this is going to be that. And he's just probably sitting up there with a grin on his face like, yeah, that's what you think, buddy.
But what I told this woman was, while this podcast is geared towards men, the lessons learned are universal. These guys are going to be talking about real and raw things. It's going to be unedited. It's going to be healing. It's going to be informational. And those things are not limited to the male gender. Like, we women watching this, we're going to learn things about relationships. We're going to learn things about how men handle different situations and different struggles and how they deal with life. And there's only one that's only beneficial in a relationship, in a dating relationship or a marriage. Understanding your partner is only going to bring beneficial things to your relationship.
Yeah, I agree. So back on the subject of marriage and this being for men, and we're trying to equip men. His episode probably won't be out by the time I release this. I've recorded several, and they're, in the queue waiting to go. But let's talk about you are what I would consider an alpha female.
Mm-hmm.
You know, much like me, for you, leadership comes natural. Most of the time, we get thrown into leadership roles, whether we want it or not.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of one of those things that it just comes naturally to us both. You can call it the military service we did, or our personalities.
We're both. If something's going to be done and I have any kind of hand into it, I'd rather I be in charge of it because I know it's going to get done right, and you're the same way.
Yes, unfortunately, sometimes to my detriment.
Yes.
And that's why I carry so many things.
And that may sound cocky or what, but it's just life experience.
Yeah.
So.
But so you are what I would consider an alpha female. Like, you don't take much crap from people. You intimidate a lot of men. You get things done. You're a doer. You know, even when we were competing strongman, we did that for several years. You know, you excelled at that. You excelled at sports when you were in school. You still excel at sports. Like, you coach our son's basketball team. Hopefully you don't ever do that again.
I know, right? That was terrible.
But people are surprised at your athleticism, all these things. You're what I would consider an alpha female. In saying that, what do you look for, or what about me what are you looking for in a man for a marriage that's going to make it successful? What did I do correct to make our marriage successful, or to make you chase after me? Because, I mean, let's face it, you just chased her.
Okay, totally. I moved all the way 500 miles.
I know, right?
Well, like 5,000 miles to find you,
Yeah.
but then 500 miles to... Well, number one, you were never heavy-handed with me. You never tried to be dominating. We went into this as a team, and that was a big thing for me. Like, I don't know that you've ever raised your voice with me, even in circumstances where you probably should have. I probably deserved. You never did. Mm-hmm. You were always very calm, always very collected, always very light-handed with me. But I'm not saying that you weren't an alpha male. You are. You are, in my opinion, like the epitome of the alpha male, you know? But you have a side to you that just fits me perfectly. You've allowed me to be me, but while still being you. Like, nothing was taken away from your personality. It was just like two puzzle pieces came together. Mm-hmm. And it was just a natural thing. Like, I had absolutely no trouble submitting to you. And I know a lot of women get triggered by that word, but that word is not a bad word. Mm-hmm. The world has made it a bad word. My level of respect for you in how you carry yourself, how you live your life, the steps you've taken to get where you are now, the whole walk you have done with grace and confidence and just a faith about you. Even before the church, it was there. It just wasn't at the top. Mm-hmm. And God dug it out. But it was never, in the right relationship, it should never feel like submission. It just is. It's just how the relationship is.
Yeah. I like that you use the word submission, because I was actually going to ask you, do you feel like that you submit to me in being the leader of our household?
Do you feel like I submit to you?
I do, yes.
Okay.
But I know from the outside looking in, and it may be because I don't necessarily do it the way that most men would consider, my wife is going to submit to me and do that. In a future podcast, we talk about this. And, I said in that podcast, and I say all the time, people sometimes joke with me about being married to you and you being the person that you are we clearly know who wears the pants in that relationship. And I've told several people, you'd be surprised at what even my wife would say about that, of who is the leader of our household. And I feel like the reason, just to give my advice to men, I feel like the reason that I have succeeded in that is, like you already said, I have allowed you to be you. while still being the man that I need to be to lead the house. It's easy for women to submit to men if the men are living godly lives and leading in godly fashion. And that's different for every relationship. So I can't give specific advice of like, what did you do for when your wife did this, or what did you do? You know, it looks differently. But the first thing that couples need to understand in relationship is that you both should individually be seeking God. You know, the relationship of marriage and God looks like a triangle, right? God at the top and the husband and wife on the bottom corners. And as you individually seek God, you automatically draw closer together in your relationship. And I feel like even within the last year to 2 years, we've even got closer because we've both been seeking God hardcore in this D group and in things that we're doing. So, because you do a lot of things, let me rephrase. You don't do a lot of things that some men would consider deal breakers in marriages.
Absolutely.
Right? Who does all the cooking in our house? I do. You know,
Who does the cleaning in our house? Our kids.
Our children. We kind of share that role as a family. You know, the kids have chores they do. We have specific areas we do. You kind of handle the laundry and some of the inside things. I do most of the outside stuff, but you help with that some too. You know, every situation looks different, but, you know, you don't cook. And that's never been a problem for me because I like cooking. And so I don't have a problem with that. But some men would be like, well, my wife's going to have me supper when she gets home. But you do a lot of things that other women don't do. You know, you are a pillar and a leader in our community and in our church. You know, you are an example, and I'd say a godly example for women of answering God's calling, whatever he's called you to do. You know, I see it in our church on the stage and the amount of time that you put into it. A lot of people don't see the work that you put in behind the scenes of constantly listening to music, coming up with set lists, planning center, practice, all the things. I'll be the first to admit, because I carry so many bags, you know, I don't show up as prepared as I should when I come to band practice, and I'm the worship leader's husband. I try, and I've usually listened to the songs and maybe played them once or twice, right? I try my best, but I've never seen you show up unprepared, you know, and you work in corrections, which is a job most women couldn't handle, and you excel at it. And I've seen you jump on grown men's backs before, not in person, but because I would have been there, obviously, and that wouldn't have happened. But through video, you know, footage, I've seen you jump on grown men's backs before to break up fights. You know, there are a lot of things about you that are different than the average female or wife. And that's what I love about you. That's what I fell in love with about you, that you are strong and you're confident in the things that you do. You do have moments of self-doubt and when your confidence wavers, and I have to pick you up. But those things about you are what make you special to me. And so every relationship is going to be different. For me to say, hey, man, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and then your relationship be great. That's terrible advice.
I think the main thing to take away is not to focus on what your significant other doesn't do. Don't focus on that.
Yeah.
Focus on what you can do for your significant other. What can you do to improve, benefit, make their life easier? And in response, your significant other is going to do the same.
And we've had that. I can't speak for you, but I've had that revelation in our marriage before. There was a time where, and I wasn't very vocal about it, but there was a time where I was very self-centered in our marriage. And I kept looking at all the things that you weren't doing for me. Some of it sexual, some of it physical, some of it I didn't feel like I was getting affirmation or love from you, you know, these kind of things. But I'm not communicating any of that with you. I'm just stewing in my own anger and self-pity.
And I've probably asked you 18,000 times what's wrong.
Probably, but I didn't want to tell you. I just wanted you to fix it. I just wanted you to show me love. I wanted you to give me sex. You know, I wanted you to tell me how handsome I am and that I'm doing a good job. I wanted all those things, but I didn't want to tell you that I wanted that, if that makes sense. Like, you know how women always say, I want you to do that. Well, then just ask me. Well, I want you to do it without me having to tell you. So I realized quickly that I didn't realize quickly. I wallowed in that mess for a while. And I don't know what snapped me out of it. I really want to say it was something I saw online, and some man saying, you know, if your relationship isn't going the way that you want, it was probably some preacher. By this time, at this time, you know, we're active in church, and I'm making changes in my personal life, you know, trying to focus on good things and not things of the world. And so I was probably watching some kind of sermon or something, and this pastor says, you know, if you're struggling in your marriage in these areas and your wife isn't doing these things, X, Y, and Z, my question is, what are you doing for her? And that hit me. I was like, I ain't doing nothing for her because she ain't doing nothing for me. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I do anything for her? Because she's not doing anything for me. And basically his message was, take however many days, 21 days, something like that, and do nothing but focus on your wife, you know, and whatever she might need, and then see what happens. And I did that without telling you. You know, I did massages, I did all these types of things, right? And what I realized, it didn't take 21 days. It may have just took like a few days, that you were reciprocating or giving me in turn all the things that I wanted from you anyways.
But hadn't said.
Yeah. But because my focus was on you, then you turned around and focused on me too. And so my advice is always for men in relationships. You know, we tend to get self-focused and self-centered and well, my wife don't do this and she don't do that and she don't do this. Well, what are you doing for her? Are you staying in the garage until 9 o'clock at night and then coming in and expecting her to give you sex? She's probably not going to want to do that. You know, us looking at our love languages was a big one. You know, I know your two big love languages are physical touch, which doesn't always mean sex, and quality time.
And I had to explain that to you.
Well, I knew that. You know, sometimes if I do it right, it will turn into sex.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Not all the time.
Not all the time, but most of the time.
But I'm usually pretty clear, like, I just want to cuddle with you tonight.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay.
Pouty McPout
How
pants.
about tomorrow night?
Pouty McPout pants.
How about in the morning? But when I focus on you and your languages, so you got me off track. You got talking about
love language,
the dirty deed. No, but what I'm saying is, don't be a man and be, you know, nowadays video games are the big thing. Don't play 5 hours of video games and then run up in the bedroom and expect you're going to get some, because it's probably not going to happen. You know, at the very least, your wife likes words of affirmation. You know, tell her how pretty she is, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, don't avoid your wife all day or not talk to her all day and then expect her to give it up at night. Like, no.
Or even expect her to be happy to see you, you know.
Or expect any kind of, at that point, you're on the verge of losing respect.
Yeah. But now this goes both ways too, you know. Wives should also be doing those things too.
And that's what I was saying, like, when you focus on your spouse instead of yourself, it makes a big difference in your relationship. It makes submission easy. When you focus on the love you have for your spouse, when you love your spouse as the Christ loved church, the respect and the submission come naturally. Mm-hmm. They come without hesitation, without thought, without any physical act of doing. When you love your spouse as the Christ loved the church, everything happens as it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. And that comes with sacrifice.
Yep.
On both parts.
Yep.
Christ sacrificed himself for the church, for the
Mhm.
believers. We must sacrifice ourselves for one another.
Mm-hmm.
My last piece of advice is going to be, this will step on a lot of people's toes, and we've always had this advice, but your spouse should be the number one person in your family. When you become one, when you marry and you become one with somebody else, that is now your person, your number one priority outside of God, right? God first, and then your spouse. So you're my number one priority, more than my parents, more than our children. Now, our children come next.
Yep.
But my relationship should always be to God first and then to you next. And it has been. It always has been for us.
And the point of that is to teach the ones coming up how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
If they see us focused on God, focused on each other, and then they're right there, that's how they're going to see moving forward in their life things should be.
Mm-hmm.
We're teaching. It's another form of discipleship. We are discipling these little people.
Mm-hmm.
But if they see mom and dad don't talk, mom and dad fight all the time, mom and dad can't even be in the room, that's how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
No,
it's not. And I see, let's just say, for instance, a married couple not getting along, not communicating, and then a lot of times the wife or the mother forms the bond that she should have with her husband, she forms with her kids.
Yep.
And then that, like you just said, that screws up the next generation. Because then let's say that son, he's mama's boy, he grows up to get married, mama can't let go of that boy, and then she's involved in that marriage, and she's messing it up. Mm-hmm. And she's, when he needs to let her go, she needs to let him go, and he needs to be focused on his spouse, and instead she's butting in and she's messing up the next thing. Mm-hmm. So it's got to be, the hierarchy's always got to be God, spouse, and then your children. Not that we don't love our boys, we love them more than anything. I had men's breakfast this morning, we talked about being a godly father. And, I would die for each one of my children.
Absolutely.
But they take second place to you, and you take second place to God and what he's called me to do. But the beauty of it is, if you get all the things right in the right order, it fits perfectly, and nothing is fighting for attention.
Nope. Nothing's out of balance. Nothing's out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
It all fits together.
Yeah.
Just as he planned for it to.
Yeah. Our boys know that your mom comes before you.
Yeah.
I come before them in your eyes, and they just think that that's normal.
Yeah.
Because it's always
the little
been that
one
way.
still tries to test it sometimes.
He does, but he'll figure it out eventually. The big one doesn't even.
No. I'm
like, I'm sitting on the couch with your mom. Go away.
But when there are occasions where I doubt, like, I'm like, man, I'm a bad mom. Like, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. The kids didn't do anything for spring break. Oh, how dare I? But then individually, they'll walk through the house and just randomly, just walking through the house to get a snack. Love you.
Mm-hmm.
Love you too, buddy.
Mm-hmm. And
it just melts your heart. Like, that's like, God knows when I need that. God knows when I need that affirmation from my kids. Like, you're not doing it wrong. Your following of the godly plan is not wrong. And let me show you this, because your kids love you.
He always seems to give us those things when we need them. I've already told the story about, this pod, getting the text whenever I needed it. Am I showing belly?
A little bit.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Getting the text when I was at my low and needed it, and, financially being provided for when I needed it.
Amazing.
We get those affirmations from God when we need it, if we're following in his will and his plan. And that's just simply walking.
And we're not sitting here saying it's easy.
Oh, no.
By any means.
And we suck at it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just try and suck less. God,
yes.
Jesus
just wants us to suck less every day. That's my line. You can't use it.
Okay, sorry. Am I allowed to use it when you're not on here?
Sure.
Okay.
But you gotta quote me.
Okay. In the words of my amazing, beautiful,
amazing, totally talented wife.
Yeah. Jesus wants us to suck less a little every day.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I feel like this is a good landing place. The plane
was it
landed.
30 minutes?
It was 40. Is that all right?
You suck at landing planes, by the way.
The runway just has to be like super long, super duper long.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you'll be back on at some point. There's still lots of areas of our life we didn't cover, but I felt it was important for us to tell our story and who I am as a host, like what credentials I have, none.
None.
You're exactly.
But that's why this podcast is going to be awesome. Yeah, man. Like it's totally real, unedited, raw. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be funny, but it's going to be real, and it's not going to be scripted. One thing I do want to say is, if you're listening to this and you just feel like your marriage is just too far gone, like there's no saving it, it's not true. God can do anything with anything. God can bring you back from the brink of the end if you let him and if you put the work in. So that's the only last. Now you can land the plane.
No, the plane has landed.
The seatbelt. Take your seat. Seatbelt lights on.
Seatbelt light?
Yeah.
Well, you already know this, but it's tradition that you have to pray us out.
Good thing I'm a good prayer.
You're such a good prayer.
I know, right? Let me adjust my mic. Father, I come to you tonight, and I just want to thank you for all the blessings that you just continue to shower on, not just me, but my husband. The path that you're leading him down is just so full of your light, and I just pray he continues to follow the lamp you have set in front of him, that he have faith in the steps that you have laid out for him, that he have courage to do the things that you're calling him to do, and that he have confidence to know that he is more than capable to do all the things you call him to, because he puts his faith in you. With you, all things are possible. There is nothing that we can't do that you call us to. Father, I just pray anybody listening to this, if their marriage is struggling or stagnant or just dull, and they think that they're just too far gone, they're too far into it, too many years spent in the situation they're in, that you just touch them right now and you let them know that you are in control as long as they release the wheel and give it to you. Lay it down and let you take control. Focus on you. Seek you. And you will take control of it, and you will bring it to the amazingly beautiful thing that it's supposed to be. When we focus on you and love our spouse as you love the church, God, you will make that union what it is meant to be. Father, be with us as we go through this weekend. Tomorrow is Sunday. I just pray you fill us with your energy and your strength to come to church tomorrow and lead the congregation to you, to shine your light for every single person that comes into this place to see, and that they feel the love that can come only from you. Father, we love you so much. It's in your awesome, righteous, glorious name. And we both said, Amen.
Thank you for coming. I love you.
Don't feel like I had a choice.
Oh, you did. But
okay, I'm just kidding.
All right. I love you.
I love you.
Until next time, stay ready.